Patrik Allvin and the Vancouver Canucks stay busy by picking up two perfect depth adds that are going to bolster the bottom six for the Canucks. We're going to break down both Danton, Heinen and Kiefer Sherwood later on this episode. But before we start, I just want to give a shout out to the 23.4% of you guys that are subscribed, to the 76.6% if you guys are enjoying this content. It's completely free. You can be kept up to date on everything to do with the Canucks, so make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button. We'll be here all off season into next season, giving you updates from around the Canucks. Well, that let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is the Canucks sign Kiefer Sherwood. Now, Kiefer Sherwood is a name that not a lot of people know. If you remember the playoff series versus the Nashville Predators, he was there, but we've seen that he was signed to a 2-year contract worth $1.5 million AAV. I think this is an awesome pickup, honestly. You get a guy that's still kind of young. He's 29 years old. He still has room to grow. He'll be 31 at the end of this. He put up 10 goals, 17 assists for 27 points with the Nashville Predators. And Griffin, what's your thoughts on bringing in a guy like Kiefer Sherwood to kind of add more depth scoring or just depth to this Canucks bottom six?
I think it's a great move for the Canucks. I think this is just one of those sneaky signings where it's not a high-profile guy, but it's someone who, like you said, will help with depth. And with Vancouver, their identity of all of last season was really their depth and how they were able to have guys score, not just on the first and second line, but also on the third and fourth line as well. And just also ruffling feathers, getting hits, and making things happen later on deeper in the depth chart than the top-ended guys who were getting more attention. So it's nice to have a guy like Sherwood come in who was in the playoffs last season, so he has had a bit of experience, and he'll be able to contribute in bigger ways than smaller ways on a third and fourth line potentially, where he's not going to be the main guy, but he has a chance to emerge as the main guy of his line and really make a name for himself in Vancouver. And I think this is one where it's like the Forbort signing, where you have a shorter amount of time and a good price tag, where you're built to win while your window is open. You don't want to win as your window is closing or get these guys locked in while your window is closing. So while the window is wide open, it makes sense to do these short-term deals with a low price tag, because if you can win it early while the window is open, then you don't have to worry about all the years where the window is closing and you're having to build for the future. And we saw with this draft that Vancouver was really building for the future. So I think they're trying to build for the future while also keeping that window open in the short term with these short-term contracts so they can make it happen.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is when you do look at a guy like Kiefer, is you bring in a guy on that 2-year contract, it's just straight $1.5 million per season. And the biggest thing, which you did bring up as well, is this guy brings physicality. When you look at the very bottom last year with Nashville in 2023-2024, obviously the 27 points is great for a bottom six guy, but he also laid 234 hits in those 68 games. He had 22 block shots, but this guy is going to add some defense, some physicality in a guy like Dakota Joshua. Well, both of them will be wrecking balls. He had 35 takeaways, 18 giveaways, and in my opinion, this is almost the perfect just middle six, bottom six guy, a plug and play player. Obviously, you don't want him playing in your top six, but you can put him within the lineup. And what's your thoughts on, once they lost out on a guy like Zadorov, obviously they lost hitting in this aspect, but what's your thoughts on bringing another guy like Dakota Joshua that can really lay the body and just punish people?
I think it's great. I think Vancouver's a team where, like we mentioned before, how they are physical. Yes, they are getting a lot of hits per game, but they're not getting punishing hits. They're not getting massive hits unless it was Joshua or Zadorov. So I think adding a guy like Sherwood, who, like you said, is a wrecking ball, and Vancouver has a chance to have two players, not only in the top 10, but potentially the top 5 in hits next season, if they have a full season healthy with each other, where they can just go and just destroy these teams. I think it's great for Vancouver adding a physical identity to their team. We've seen how they have the depth, they have the goaltending. Those are big heading into the playoffs. Now you have to have that penalty or that power play assassin mentality, where no matter how many times you get on the power play, you always feel like you're going to score. We saw Edmonton and how far that carried them this season. So that's also a big thing in the playoffs and just in the regular season as well. And that physicality as well. We've seen how tough the playoffs get when going from the regular season. We saw how lenient the refs are, or not as lenient, I should say, where they're just going to let guys murder each other. And I think with this, having this wrecking ball tandem where you could have Joshua and Sherwood just wrecking teams up, I think that's going to be awesome to see. And there's going to be more physicality to come with this Vancouver team, as we see with later free agents and their draft picks.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's your guys' thoughts on bringing in Sherwood? I think he's a perfect fit, and I think Griffin thinks the same as well. So let us know down in the comments. But with that, we'll get straight into the second topic, which is Danton Heinen is a Canuck. Now, we do get another tweet from the Vancouver Canucks that general manager Patrik Allvin agreed to terms with forward Danton Danton Hyman, another Boston Bruin. Since they took 2 of our players, let's take 3 on a 2-year contract worth $2.25 million AAV. Now, when you do look at Danton Hyman, the first thing I want to point out, this guy is from BC. This is a hometown kid. He's coming home, and he had a productive season with Boston. In 74 games playing in their bottom 6 to middle 6, he put up 17 goals, 19 assists for 34 points. In the playoffs, he didn't really do anything as he was playing, I think, majority fourth line minutes, but he did put up an assist. He was great for the Boston Bruins. Just watching some of their games throughout this season, they did produce with him. And Griffin, what's your thoughts on the Canucks bringing in a hometown kid to put into this bottom 6?
I think it's great. We want to see more hometown kids playing for Vancouver. We know that there's more that people want to see. We know we've seen about it in the comments. We've seen what people want. So now we're getting more of what people want. We drafted 3 Canadians. We went out and got a hometown boy. So now we're getting more of a Canadian identity with this team that I think a lot of fans were wanting. So I think that's great. And it's not that it's just a Canadian just for the sake of a Canadian. He's a guy who's going to produce. He's going to make a name for himself in Vancouver, like I think a lot of these free agents are. So I think that's going to be a great position for Vancouver to add more depth. And with him being a hometown kid, it's not going to hurt the chemistry as much. I think he's going to adapt very well to life in Vancouver. He knows what it's like out there. So I think he's going to love being back in BC, and I think that's just going to help this team chemistry and morale so much more.
Yeah, and it's going to be awesome just seeing the hometown kid come in, obviously scoring 17 goals. We could see a 20-goal season, 25-goal season, depending where he plays in the lineup. Now, when you do look at the contract, obviously the 2-year contract, $2.25 million. I think this is a great pickup. It's taken less than 3% of the cap. I think he's going to come in, inject offense within this lineup, add some speed. He's going to be a good player. And just looking at this team as a whole, looking at the forwards they have right now, obviously this is not going to be dead set on the lines. Just have a guy like Danton Hyman put up onto the top line just for the sake of putting them there. But when you're looking at this team, they're really shaping out to have a nice 4 lines of players that can produce for you. Danton Hyman, JT Miller, Brock Boeser, they're going to produce offense for you. JT Miller's been great defensively. Höglander, Pettersson, newly acquired Jake DeBrusk. If you haven't watched the video, go check the one we just put up a few minutes ago as well. You have guys like Dakota Joshua, Teddy Bluger, Connor Garland, which was one of the most productive lines for any team this season, and it was the 3rd line for the Canucks. Sherwood, Pius Suter, Podkolzin, and you still have PDG, sorry about that, Amon, you have Jonathan Lekermacki. This team is deep on forwards. And Griffin, are you excited to kind of look at all these guys and what the Canucks could do and just how they are going to shape this team?
I can't wait to see it. I think, like we mentioned before, how depth is going to be such a big thing for this Vancouver team. That was a big part of their identity last year. It's going to be a big part of it next year, and making sure that you have guys who are going to be able to be that next man up, or at least have that mentality where they can step up and be in the best position to win and produce points. So I think Vancouver is putting themselves in a very nice position in that sense, where we have a guy like Podkolzin, we have a guy like Allman. Lekermacki could see his return to Vancouver as well. So we have a lot of these young guys with a lot of older vets that are just great with chemistry. They seem to all play well together. So I think this is great for Vancouver from a depth perspective and from a chemistry perspective, like I said before. So I think Vancouver is very much in a very good position right now to not, like, yes, there's going to be some things they have to worry about. Getting more shots on net, being better on the power play, being better on the penalty kill. But where team chemistry and morale is the glue that's going to hold this team together, especially with a captain like Quinn Hughes, I think that's going to be amazing for Vancouver. And it's nice to see that there isn't too much shakeup. There was a lot of money that they had to move around, a lot of small deals that they have to make, but they're doing it without losing too many key pieces. Yes, we lost Zadorov. That's going to be a big blow, but they're not trying to mess with team chemistry too much and bringing in these guys who, yes, he's a hometown kid and he came from another team, but being that hometown kid, he'll adjust quickly. And with these other players, I think they're all just going to fit in very nicely, and I think Tocchet is going to get the best out of these guys next season.
And the big thing is, a lot of people are talking about, hey, the Canucks need to do this. They need to add so much more. But this is a team that went to the second round. They took the Edmonton Oilers, who went to the finals, and took the Florida Panthers to 7 games. They battled them for 7 games. They had their third-string goalie at the time, and Shelov's in net. So this Canucks team knows they have something building here. This was after just kind of a bad season by Elias Pettersson in the playoffs as well. So with this Canucks team, with the new acquired guys, what they're shaping up to do, they're going to go on a deep run. But what's your guys' thoughts on the Danton Hyman contract? What's your thoughts on bringing in Sherwood as it just pure physical guy on the fourth line? Let us know down in the comments. And speaking on comments, we'll get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. The comment today comes from Jack, and he says, big congrats on hitting your goal of 3,000. Shout out to you, Jack. It was awesome to see you guys just kind of blow up the subscribe button. We asked for 3,000. I think we're almost at 3,200 already, and that was just a matter of a couple days. So we're trying to reach 4,000, 5,000 before the season starts. I know you guys can get us there, and if you're enjoying the content, just go down and hit it because it's completely free and you'll never miss another episode. But with that, I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.